Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, I'm joined by Sushil Ganesh. Sushil is the host of Heal with Sushil, a weekly mental health podcast where he has insightful, interesting discussions with experts in mental health, as well as amazing people from all across the world. He's also a stand-up comedian, a writer, an abstract artist who, back in 2020, without a plan at all, decided to quit his day job and has been living his best life, we hope, as a full-time creator since then. Sushil, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for that wonderful intro. And I heard that intro and I felt I'm kind of badass.
Yeah. Well, you are. I've been looking at your stuff. At least that's what you're showing. You're showing the world that you're badass. So what's happening?
Mhm.
You're a comedian. You're an artist. Your website has a lot of your stuff on it, and we'll talk about that later. But tell me about you. Where have you come from? And please tell me about quitting your job in 2020. Like, are you nuts?
I mean, I would be nuts if I'm doing it in 2022, I would say, for starters. I would say I'm 2 years ahead of the curve. But yeah, I am from Mumbai.
Mhm.
And I currently live in Toronto, and I'm a two-time immigrant to North America. First to the US, I was there for 6 years, and then I quit my job without a plan because of everything that led to the build-up. And then I went back home for a year and a half to India, and a lot of stuff happened there. And then I decided to give it another shot in North America and move to Canada.
Okay. So
And
you were in the US
yeah,
at the
it
start of the
was.
pandemic.
I hope I was. I used to work in tech. I was a software engineer at a large tech company. So I went and lived the brown dream for a bit, and and then I just felt like, turning 30 and start like evaluating where your life is going and quarter life crisis and all of that.
Mhm.
And for better or for worse, it just happened that I had to leave my job because I was at a breaking point in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, you're a two-time immigrant to North America. Let's talk about that. Because how did that come about? What drove you to do that?
So a lot of Indian kids, they're given this dream that moving out of India is the only way you can prosper, or moving out of India and moving to a developed country is where things will fall into place and everything will be magically okay. And I also bought into that dream. My sister also did that. Like, she is a double master's, and she also worked in the US and then moved to Canada. Multiple career changes. And yeah, so right from the time I was a kid, I would be compared to my cousins and say, like, there was this discussion: look at your cousin, he works at Microsoft, he works at Google, and his life is, the word we use is set. His life is set. And I bought into that, and I felt that someday I have to do this as well. And I was pretty miserable in the job I was in after I graduated from university. So I thought, why not give it a shot? Everyone is doing it. All my close friends from college had left for the US. They were in university and they were now working. So I felt like I didn't have very strong ties towards being in India at the time. So I thought I'll give it a shot. And I came to the US to get a master's in computer science. And yeah, I did that. And I felt like now I should be happy, because I've done it.
Yeah, yeah. You
But
achieved
it's
it.
funny. Happiness is like that. Exactly. And that's the problem with the achiever mindset, is once you achieve it, you have to like course correct and find the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
that's
was how
interesting.
I reached the US.
Well, that is interesting. So that it's basically look, I have friends who are from various parts of India, and none of them live in India anymore. They go back for holidays, or they build houses and employ people in their local towns and villages and whatever. And that's now their idea of being, like you said, being set. Bringing employment and prosperity to the places that raised them. But I've been an immigrant too. I'm in a completely different boat because I have white privilege. So I don't get looked at. I don't get looked at, but I'm sure you do. And it's a tough place to go. I've lived in the US, even as a white person from Australia. It's a tough place to live. So what was that like for you?
To be honest, it was scary at first. I didn't know what to expect. I had lived all my life in a comfortable place with my parents, and that's pretty normal because it's not abnormal for like Indian kids to stay with their parents until like they leave to get married or do something like that. But I felt like I had a sheltered life, and then suddenly I was put in the deep end. I was in university and had to make a lot of decisions for myself. I was fortunate that my sister had done it before, so there was some guidance. But I would say coming here and fending for yourself, learning how to cook, and doing all of that was life-changing in a way.
Yeah.
I'd say you grow up really fast, and I feel having to provide for yourself and all of that is something that everyone has to do in the real world. And for me, it was like I had to move like 10,000 miles away from where I live to learn all of that, which is funny.
Yeah.
But it's also great. But
Absolutely.
it was quite challenging in terms of I felt like in some places, right, it's not as welcoming as it's advertised, or like the land of dreams and everything. And there were instances where I felt that, but I would say predominantly my experiences wasn't super unpleasant because, first of all, I was in a college town. So I was in a program where like 90% of the students were Indians.
Yeah.
So it was like in India light when I moved to the US.
Yeah.
And then the second place I lived in was Seattle, which is also a very liberal town. So I think it was less scary than it is now. Now I wouldn't be very comfortable living there because with all the shootings, with all the unrest, with COVID and so much political drama, right? I wouldn't be very comfortable living there at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't live there. It was a dream for me too to live there, but I left 11 years ago.
Where did you immigrate from?
From Australia. So I was born and raised in Australia.
Oh, okay, you're from Australia originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 5 days after I turned 18, I decided that I was leaving the country. So I went to Europe, where my family are from. I have a Dutch passport, so I'm a dual citizen, and I decided that I wanted to go across to Europe. But as an 18-year-old who had never lived away from home before, I didn't know how to cook. Like you said, you have to learn all these things. I didn't even know how to do the shopping. So I knew how to spend money, but I didn't know how to do it properly. That's a few years ago now. But I couldn't wait to get out. I was lucky I had family to go to, and then decided I had been living in Europe at that time for about 2 years, and I decided to apply for a job near some friends who I had met online. I'd never met them in person, and decided to go and stay. They invited me, of course. I didn't just invite myself, but they invited me to come and stay. So I went and I went and stayed with them for a while in the deep south. I was in the deep south of Louisiana, southwest Louisiana, in a little town called Sulphur. And that's about as backwoods and southern as you can get. And I met these people for the first time ever getting off the plane in Louisiana. Yeah.
I would love to know what my experience would have been like if I if I asked if I could stay with them, I
didn't even ask. It was just a conversation.
The messed up part is I asked my one of my white friends in the South that would their family have a problem with me, and then they said, "No, you're cool as long as you're not black." That was so overtly.
Uh,
That was
Yeah.
so racist, but
yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's the truth. Sadly.
yeah, racism is very much the dish of the day down there. And I struggled with a long time because I ended up living there for 7.5 years. Um, I struggled because I'm not a racist. I don't agree with that racist ideology. And I'm sure, like all of us, we've all had our prejudices. And I mean, that's especially true for me. But the prejudices that I've had could have been against another white person, you know. I was robbed at gunpoint in Louisiana. And it just happened to be a person of color that robbed me. So of course I developed some prejudices there with certain, you know, you've got biases, and that was just what I developed while I was there. But I lived with people who fueled that, who didn't help me overcome it. They didn't counsel me to get out of that. Instead, they, I think, made it worse because they agreed with everything that I was saying, because they felt that way too. So these people were Republican, as red could be, racist as could be. They didn't know any people of color. I probably was the darkest person that they ever knew. And, you know, I was the suntan kid from Australia. So it was interesting. And I wouldn't go back there now. I don't know anybody there anymore. They've all moved away and gone to different places, and I miss it because it's a beautiful place, but I would never live there again. So as far as the immigrant experience, that was mine. And I think it's a contrast to what you would have experienced, except in Canada.
Thank you for sharing that. When you're right, like it's tough to get away from prejudice and unconscious biases. And something I learned much later in life was that because I grew up, India is also kind of racist sometimes. You know, we have like these nuanced.
I've been there, I know.
Light skin versus dark skin. Yeah. We have fairness creams, and I mean, like, if someone like me is darker than a lot of people, and I would be subjected to ridicule growing up, like, kids would call me Blackie in Hindi. Like the term is Kalia, which means Blackie. And, you know, like I feel like I had internalized this perception of hating my own skin color. So it's kind of like I'm racist towards myself, because most of my relationships have been interracial relationships. And it was only after like examining this and doing some therapy and like seeing this from a bird's eye perspective, I realized that, oh, I have this internalized hatred for my own skin tone. And who am I to cast the finger outwards? You know, it's weird. Like, if unconsciously I have this kind of tendency to not like the way I look, then I shouldn't be surprised if I'm attracting that kind of energy from the outside world as well.
Yeah.
So I felt I had to do a lot of work towards self-acceptance and being you know, slightly darker skinned Indian person. Yeah.
Do you think that do you think that's what brought you to do your podcast? Because I think you address a lot of those things in your podcast. Self-healing and that type of thing.
Yeah, so definitely. I would say that Heal with Sushil is not a podcast where Sushil is healed and he's teaching everyone. It's
no, it doesn't feel that way either. Don't feel that. It doesn't feel like that's what you're doing. You're not coming across that way.
Thank you. It's good to get feedback. So I think it's more like I'm figuring it out as I go along.
Yeah.
I have done some work on myself, and a lot of negative patterns, anti-patterns, a lot of programs have started unraveling, but there's a lot of work to do. And I learn a lot from conversation with people and different techniques on how to address parts of your psyche which are like dictating the way you live every day. And that's what I'm learning from it. I feel one of the guests I had on the show, we spoke about shame, and I realized that addressing something like shame is very important to be authentic in this world and not give a rat's ass about what people think. And by the way, can we curse on this or?
Oh, absolutely. Completely uncensored. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You'll be the first person who does accept
I know
me.
that Apple Podcast can be. No, I'm just saying that, you have to have an explicit setting or something if you're distributing to Apple. And so I didn't want you to get in like hot water over that. So but absolutely. Heal with Sushil is just that. We're all kind of screwed up in a certain way. And I'm figuring out how to like unscrew myself by talking to people who are further ahead in the journey, or even people who are willing to be vulnerable, learning from their stories, their examples, and the techniques that they use. So it's very much sharing what I learn along the way.
You said about the shame. I actually spoke with a lady who talks about shame and guilt. And it's important not to own it, but to identify that everybody has shame guilt. It's part of our nurturing. It's not just something that comes into us. We inherit it from our parents and our grandparents, and it's no one's fault, but these are things that are programmed into us along the way of our childhood. And these are things like, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you are too skinny, you know, like you said, my skin is too dark, I don't fit in here, those types of things. And shame guilt is important to identify and become friends with in order to overcome it. It's not actually something that we'll ever get rid of, but what is the most important is, do not own it. You do not own it. It is not yours. It is the shame guilt. And if you don't recognize and own it, not own it, but recognize it and identify it, it will eat you up and create other issues like anxiety, depression, addictions, whatever. And that all comes from shame guilt, which is apparently the lowest form of human emotion before death.
100%. And I was feeling like you're checking off like this laundry list of depression, been there, anxiety, got that, addiction, working through that.
Well, I'm sorry that I just
and
I just read you out to the world.
No, and it's what you said made a lot. No, it's totally fine. I do it. I out myself like each Monday, so it's not
part
a
of
big deal.
Healing, right?
Each Monday, a new episode of the podcast comes. Exactly, and I write about it a lot. I write about like working through addiction and everything, and I think shame plays a major role in that, because you're right. What you said, I'm not good enough. I have to change the way I am. Me being myself is not good enough to fit into society. And we do all of this to survive, for the approval of our peers, because I think belonging is one of those 4 basic needs, right? Food, clothing, shelter, and belonging. And we do whatever it takes to fit in. And I know it's difficult, because when you do all of this to fit in, you start repressing a part of who you really are. You start repressing all of that comes up. And 100%, before I started working on myself, I didn't even know I was depressed. I didn't even know I was addicted. There was no awareness. And it's been great doing all of this work.
Yeah. Let's talk about that addiction. You said you were addicted. So how? What were... You could say as little or as much as you want. It's up to you.
So, I mean, it was pot addiction. Pot wasn't legal in India, but it was legal in Seattle, the place where I lived. After graduating from college, it was legal in Washington State. So it's kind of weird in the US. They don't have it federally decriminalized, but lot of states have legalized cannabis.
Mhm.
So that was the drug of my choice. But it was a lot of things. It was, if I go back to the earliest addiction in my life, it would probably be eating.
Mhm.
You know, it's not just pot, it's not just alcohol, it's sugar, it's excessive TV, porn addiction. I feel like there are so many forms of addiction that we don't realize that we have. But there was this theme of escaping
Mm.
or perpetually being bored of the present moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a symptom. It was definitely it's a symptom of something else, but at the time I didn't know it was a symptom. And the problem with addiction is like it's like a self-perpetuating loop, right? You have an addiction, you have a craving, you indulge the addiction, then you feel shame, and then what do you do to overcome that shame? You
Do
indulge
more.
in that addiction again, and then you
Yeah.
feel more shame. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like the gift
It's
that keeps
very
on giving.
psychological. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's very psychological. But in 2017, I had reached a stage where I was doing okay in my career. I was I was about to get promoted to the next level as a software engineer, but I feel I didn't know if I wanted to do this.
Mhm.
I feel like I would go through the motion. This is what it is to be an adult, have a job, work 40 hours a week. This is what life
Yeah.
is. And I would go in, and this became the cycle. I would go in at 9 o'clock, and then come home, bring work home, work till like 8 p.m. or something, and then have dinner, get high, play video games, have second dinner, get high, go to sleep really late.
Yeah.
So it felt like it became a crutch to just exist. And I
Yeah.
didn't know this. And I had a very severe initiation in 2018 at a party where there was like this very public incident where some comment was passed, and I was like completely triggered, and I cried in front of people. And that's when I started realizing that I'm really depressed and I have to do something, because
Mhm.
I was in a situation where I was high, and a personal remark about the color of my skin kind of got me to this place. It was an initiation of sorts. And then I spoke with a friend who had been through this, and that's when I started working with a therapist.
Okay. Do you think that
Yeah.
that depression and probably not well, your eating disorder, maybe let's call it an eating disorder, having second dinner, I know what it's like. um during the pandemic, I think I'd have three dinners a day. I managed to put on quite a lot of weight, and I'm losing weight now as a result of thinking, holy crap, like 300 pounds is not a place I want to be. But do you think that the depression was what started that, or do you think it was your eating disorder that started the depression? Where do you think that stemmed from? Like addiction, depression, where did it start?
So it's kind of like, it's a treasure hunt of sorts. I'm going to tell you that, because I started smoking a lot more pot after I got a diagnosis of lupus.
Oh, wow.
Lupus is an autoimmune disease. And it's funny. It affects like 8 out of 10 people who get lupus are women. So I feel like I'm blessed or something to get this. But it's an autoimmune disease where your own immune system attacks like healthy organs and healthy tissues and everything. And I feel like being given this statement, or this is going to be a lifelong condition, was one of the triggering aspects of that addiction. Even before I was diagnosed formally with lupus, I think in my entire 20s were like riddled with like joint pain and constantly going to the doctors. I've had 2 surgeries to alleviate joint pain in my left wrist, and I feel like I was resigned to this fact that this is what life is: suffering, poor health, and not being like completely helpless in the face of that. And that's when the eating disorder, the smoking, the drinking, and all of those like addictions were like a very prominent theme throughout my early 20s and into my early 30s as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was only when I became aware that, wow, this is happening behind the scenes, that I'm really miserable and nothing is changing. I was able to like take control of that, because I feel we have this tendency to uh, perpetuate our suffering. Like we suffer, but we add a lot of excess baggage onto that. Like, why
Yeah.
me? My life sucks. And I did. I'm not going to generalize. I definitely did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what came first. It's almost like, was it like a default setting of being depressed,
Yeah.
or if
Yeah.
all of this excess baggage came in and made it worse?
So you've leveled up now. What are you doing? So you're not addicted anymore. Well, how actually talk me through that. I don't know how that works. I've never had cannabis. I've never touched any other drugs in a way that I've become addicted. I say that very carefully because people who I know who are listening know that I have touched drugs, but I've never become addicted. So I was 18 once and I lived in Amsterdam. So, you know,
Of course.
yeah. But is it a thing? Do you say you are always addicted? Is it like we see on TV, Alcoholics Anonymous? You're always an addict and you're just forever trying to heal from that or stop the addiction? How does that work?
It's interesting. I have a different belief, or I came across Gabor Mate, and he said something very, very controversial. He said that 90% people are addicted and 10% are lying to themselves.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. And I think at the base of any addiction, it doesn't have to be something as brutal as substance abuse or whatever, but it could be, as you said, like coffee, or an addiction to working out, or an addiction to workaholism. Yeah. There are many forms.
Yeah.
And I think the root cause of a lot of those addictions are that feeling of unworthiness. This is what I deserve. And being misunderstood. And people turn to addictions in a way when they feel like it's like an ally. I one very lovely statement which I heard in his work with heroin addicts was, he was interviewing one of them, and he said that the first time I did heroin, it felt like a warm blanket. It was a feeling that he had never felt before. I know it's heroin and it's this really wicked substance, but that base of not being held, or that base of not being wanted or understood, is very strongly prevalent in addiction. And I felt that a lot growing up. It was just like a thing I don't know if it came from this bullying around the color of my skin, or some messaging I took from a difficult childhood, but I feel trauma was very strongly at the root of that.
Yeah.
And working with a functional therapist, where we go back as an adult version of ourselves and we're not reliving that trauma from a first person perspective, was immensely beneficial in viewing addiction. I would say it got worse when I moved to Seattle. I would say that I would smoke pot once a month to unwind. I would just do it like once a month, then became twice a month, and then it became once a week. And then gradually it became like this everyday thing. And then it was wake and bake and pretty much like high all the time.
Yeah. I can recognize it. I know people who are going through it. So you don't smoke pot at all anymore?
So
is that part of your
it's
journey?
Not true. I mean, it is part of my journey. I did smoke pot when I was like a few weeks ago, but it was after a year. And then I keep coming back to this crossroads, and I see that I don't like the kind of person I am when I'm in that place. And then I step back, and then I don't want to do it. But I've gone from a person who was smoking like 14 grams of weed, and now it's been like a one-off incident, like once in a year or something like that, which is progress, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, you're not addicted. You don't feel as though you have to get up and have it right now.
No. And I would say that a lot of healthy practices, bringing meditation and like reconnecting with my body and reconnecting with nature, all of that has been crucial in this recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I'm going to be completely substance free, or I don't drink alcohol anymore. I don't smoke cigarettes. I have actually given up on substances,
Mm-hmm.
but I am open to using psychedelics or plant medicine or entheogens towards consciousness exploration,
Sure.
towards doing work on myself.
Yep.
And that's where I am right now. I'm not like all substances are bad for you or something. I feel plants like ayahuasca and mushrooms can really help us expand our mind and grow our consciousness. And I'm open to going through ceremonies in the proper setting.
Yeah. That sounds good. And how's it going with your lupus?
So something strange happened was last year I tested negative for lupus.
Yeah.
And it was there's a story behind that as well. And I think it's a good segue into the near-death experience which I had.
Okay.
I was in, I think, my second month since giving up pot and other substances. And I was reading this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
And that book is really very amazing. I would recommend it to everyone. It's definitely about reconnecting with your creative aspects, like how you do with this podcast and whatever you do, you're creating something for the world.
Yeah.
And the baseline of the book, or that the bottom line of the book, is that every person is creative. It's the default human setting. And I was going through that 12-week program, and in week 6, it said that you make strong intentions to bring abundance in your life. And I set the intention that I want to heal from lupus. And I wrote it in a book, and I said that, okay, I have to change my relation with this lupus. And I did that. I wrote it in the book, and the next day I got hit by a car.
Oh my gosh.
It was part of the book is like going on an artist date, which is like where you take your inner artist on a date. You go by yourself, go to museums, go to galleries, whatnot. It was difficult during the pandemic, but I decided I'll go to the beach and write some material, write some jokes or like some essays or whatever comes to mind. So I was on my scooter and I was heading to the beach. And what happened was I was like, it's India, so you drive recklessly like an idiot. So I was right behind this car, and I was about to like pass him or her or them. And what happened was before I could pass, they just applied the brakes and they came to a sudden stop. So I had to like swerve to avoid them, and I fell on the other side of the road and I got hit by an oncoming car.
Wow.
And that was just horrible because I had broken like 12 ribs, both shoulders. Ooh. And later in the day, I realized I was having internal bleeding. Yeah. So they had to do an emergency splenectomy to remove the spleen and stop the bleeding. And I was very fortunate to be alive because strangers came ahead and donated blood. And I have O negative blood, which is pretty rare. It's not like very commonplace, or it's not like AB where you're like a universal acceptor. So getting blood from strangers and everything just felt like there was this stronger drive to live after facing death, after coming so close. Because the doctors, when they were pushing me into the OT, they told my parents, it's like hit or miss. It's like, we can't say anything.
Really?
Wow. My dad asked the doc, like, what will happen? Is he going to be okay? And so we can't give you any guarantees right now. And so they removed the spleen, and I, after like a 3-month recovery, after a few months, I went to the doctor. I said, I want to get my lupus levels tested. And I got the test, and what I noticed was it came back negative. And the only conclusion I could draw from that was removing the spleen reduced the intensity of the immune system, which resulted in me testing negative for lupus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And exactly. And more recently, I tested again, and it was borderline. it's still not like, it's still kind of in remission. So I'm taking that as a win. It's not as bad. But from 2017, when I had just taken this as a death sentence, or just a matter of time before it deteriorates, I now don't see it that way.
I know that everybody is wondering. You said it was a near-death experience, and I'm not making light of it, but did you have anything other than just laying on the table, dying?
So it was very weird because, I mean, initially I didn't have any flashes of like, walking outside my body or like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another story about that. I've had conscious out-of-body experiences, but this was not one of those. I felt like I was, after getting run over and having all the adrenaline rush and everything, it was my upper body that was like very severely affected, but I was still able to walk. So whenever into each hospital that I went that day, I walked in. It was only later in the day that they discovered the internal bleeding and decided to operate. But after they finished the operation, I was in the ICU. I woke up feeling really groggy, and I couldn't like open my eyes, and I couldn't talk because I was still under the influence of the anesthetics. And for some reason, they had bound me to the bed so that I don't like, for whatever reason. Yeah. So what happened at the time was they had a tube for me to breathe through. And suddenly during the night, it just fell off. And I couldn't breathe anymore. And I like, the second time in 48 hours, I felt like, oh, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
This is it. After surviving, getting run over by a car, this is how I go, is what I felt. And nobody could hear me because I couldn't talk. And I couldn't like put it back in or whatever because I was bound and I couldn't move. So I was noticing that I'm running out of breath, but nobody was coming to reattach the tube. So I started like vigorously violently shaking it from left to right while I was in the ICU. And it really felt something kicked in, like it wasn't voluntary. This real will to live or not give up really kicked in. And I just kept shaking and shaking. And then someone came and it seemed like an apparition because I was still so groggy. And it's funny because it was probably a nurse in white, but it felt like someone with a glow was coming because I was so high
you were out of your head.
The anesthetics. I was out of my head, and they reattached the tube, and I was like, I can breathe again.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't think I would have like a TED Talk worthy experience to share from this, but like Anita Murjani said that she had cancer. She walked outside her body, met her father, all of that. I didn't do that, but definitely deep in my body. And I'm still depressed. Okay. When this is happening, I'm still going through this, having like suicidal ideation every now and then. And when I was faced with the fact that I could actually die twice in the span of 24 hours, that's when I realized, no, I want to live.
You don't want to die. What. You want to live. Yeah.
This was very much like the messaging was very clear. I don't want to live. Like, just give up. Yeah.
Did that help?
And I'm not saying I'm healed from depression or... No. I'm not saying, it definitely did. I'm not saying that it's completely gone or it's like, it's almost like, I know it's there, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I don't feel like helpless. I don't feel like, when is this going to end? I'm like, okay, we can work through this.
Yeah.
There are some days which are good, some days that are bad, but that is human existence.
Yeah. It's almost like the experience opened up the innate desire to live, because you could have just let yourself die, I guess. If someone who really wanted to die probably could have just allowed it to happen, said, okay, this is my lot, it's time, and just, it's probably a really horrible way to die, to be honest, but they could have just let it come over them and let death take them. But I guess your instincts kicked in, and somewhere in your brain something else has unlocked, because if you could be depressed, again, it comes back to the shame and the guilt thing that we carry with us all our lives. So I'll let you know when that episode is coming on. You can have a listen to this lady because she's got some interesting things to say about the shame and guilt. But it's called shame guilt. It's the same thing, and we carry it with us all through our lives. But obviously, something woke up inside you, and you decided that you wanted to live.
100%.
Yeah,
And it was something I need to go through because so much happened in that. As I've told you before, I have like self-image issues, body image issues as well, like a lot of people. But that incident showed me that I can go through this very severe physical trauma and my body is still resilient.
Yeah.
It might not look like whatever Chris Hemsworth, and it doesn't have to. Just feel like I can get hit by a car and can still walk out of it. Then I have like a good body.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff happened through that incident, and exactly. And in a way, it's good. I wouldn't like to go through it again. It's a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah.
But very, very, very telling, just eye-opening.
Yeah.
For sure.
In Australia, we say, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So you don't need to do it again. I've got the T-shirt like to show what I've been
preferably
through.
On tie-dye.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be perfect. Yep. Yeah. Well, it perfectly fits in with what you experienced. You said you were in India. So how long ago was this? How long ago did this all happen?
So 2020, I quit my job in May, and I went back, moved in with my parents again in July after like a road trip. I was like just like a last blowout in the US. I went back home in July, and then in early September, I got a place of my own in a state called Goa, and I was staying there, trying to get back on my feet and like look for ways to establish revenue streams. That's why I was doing the Artist Way, so that I can find what I want to do, monetize it, and all of that. It's a really good self-discovery book, and yeah, so that's when it happened. It happened on Halloween. I don't know if Australians celebrate Halloween, but it happened on Halloween in 2020. Yeah, 31st of October when the accident happened. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, well, Halloween.
I actually hate that day because
something we do, but you hate that day.
Yeah, I've had a lot of. It's been a mixed bag in terms of my first pet, my first pet cat died of cancer we had to put her to bed, and it was on Halloween in 2015, and it's a mixed bag. Like some breakup happened on the day, plus I think I got a job on that day, on Halloween day, so it's like really up and down, and this happened.
Busy day.
So it's a busy day when it's around the corner, right? I'm like thinking, oh shit, I should be in a bubble. I should rest myself, not go outside the house.
Here in Australia,
not
the
wear
day
like
that people hate
controversial costume.
Yeah. Friday the 13th. That's the day that everybody thinks is a bad day. When the 13th falls on a Friday, that everybody thinks is, well, if you're superstitious, that's the day. Halloween is not the day for bad luck. It's becoming more American here in Australia. We are following more of the traditions and the cultural, American cultural things, but it's still not like it is over there. Not even close. When you
even in India, people are like doing Halloween parties and stuff like that. And a funny thing about the 13 thing, is it a thing that in Australia you're also scared of 13 shot? Like if you're an 87 or if you're like 13 short of something, it's also superstition. Or I don't know if it's a cricket thing.
It could be a cricket thing. I don't follow cricket, so it might be for people who follow cricket.
Doesn't like cricket. Topic scratched off.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could talk about cricket,
Funny thing is, I have my best friend, she absolutely adores cricket. And she knows better than to talk to me because my face sort of goes, what are you talking about? I have no idea. But, every Good Friday they get together and they play a cricket match. So I have seen cricket being played, but look, when it's on the TV, I pretty much turn the TV off. My sport of choice is tennis. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, the tennis is good. It comes here every year. We have the Australian Open, and of course, I watch Wimbledon and whatever I can. When I can.
Yeah,
when I can.
I know sports is sometimes it's nice, but I don't watch it as much as I used to.
No, I watch. I don't play.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. I don't think I could play. I'd probably do myself an injury. Just the other day, I'm 41 now. But just the other day, these curtains here behind me, I just finished an interview and I was tidying up because where I set myself up, seriously, if I turned the camera into this room, you'd all die of shock. There's no echo because it's where we keep the canned food and we keep, boxes of stuff and yeah, it's a junk room.
You're in a walk-in
closet. Junk room. It's nice. Yeah, pretty much. It's a nice quiet room. It doesn't disturb anybody else because there's other people in the house. But I pushed the curtains open, and as I did, I became breathless. I felt something in my back pop from opening a fucking curtain.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but
I didn't at the time, but because it was actually really painful. I actually thought I had pissed my pants. The pain washed over me like it was a wave of I'd never felt pain like that before. And I almost had to crawl. I thought I better go to the bathroom now because I thought I was already peeing all over myself. It was just that feeling of as the pain rushed over me. It was a pulled muscle. I did nothing serious. It was a pulled muscle. That's it. So if I played sports, Sushil, I would die.
I've been so nerdy all my life that there was no emphasis on physical exercise or working out or anything. It's almost like Indian people are like good till age 30. We have a shelf life like until like 40 or something, and then it's all downhill. And started realizing that I can't let that happen. And now is when I started like doing yoga. But I would never do yoga either. I felt like it was like for skinny white girls in yoga pants.
Mm-hmm.
And I also disconnected from it. But it's been really helpful. In fact, I'm going to stand up while talking because I feel like after hearing you talk about like your back popping, I'm scared now. I should like be a little more.
Have a stretch.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I've been sitting for so long.
Yeah.
I've been sitting for so long, and I like have lower back pain and everything. And turning old sucks.
You're 30 now. You're screwed.
33.
You're 33. Yeah, I just turned 41 in April. I was really reluctant, and I know my friend will be listening because she'll be laughing now because I actually admitted that I was 41 because I've been saying I'm 25. I didn't want to admit it.
How long have you been friends?
23 years now.
Wait, so technically you'd have known her since you were 2, but then you would be 16 at the time.
Yeah, exactly. But we're very close. We talk all the time, and she will be very surprised that I admitted my age to anybody. No one believes me when I tell people. I probably don't look really great at the moment after being sick, and it's 9:30 in the morning. So, but I don't admit how old I was, and I was really reluctant to turn. Well, actually, I was reluctant to turn 30, let alone 40. But did you have the same thing? Is that something that Indian people have a problem with is age. I feel like the problems of Indian people are very different to, say, Australians.
I love
First of all, the road, like, let's talk about the traffic. That is an issue. You people dice with death every day, and you nearly did die because of the road. So, but is age something that you guys worry about?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get married and if you want to do that, and if you only feel like you can get married to Indian people, then it's a real bother.
Yeah.
Okay, because especially if you're a woman, it sucks 10x more than if you're a guy, I think.
Yeah.
Because this whole biological clock bullshit gets in the way. And I mean, if you start going down the arranged marriage path, then it's very difficult, I would say, because it becomes slim pickings after like 28, 29. It starts like the parents start panicking. Oh no, my daughter is not married. Oh no, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Nothing will happen. She'll figure out a way to exist. It's this fear that
exactly,
if you don't get married by a certain age, then you're a complete failure. Exists in the Indian society to some degree. And I'm 33. I'm not married, not even close. I was close, to be honest. I was engaged before. And so I feel like if you don't care about it, you're as old as you feel, to be honest. I felt younger now than I used to in my 20s, with constant pain and aches and all over the place. I think that bringing like healthier habits and overcoming some of the substance problems has been pretty helpful in terms of feeling good in the body. And
I have to agree with that. I've become vegan again. When I lived in the US, I was a vegan. I was a vegetarian before that.
Nice.
So when I moved to Europe at 18, I was a vegetarian. And at that time, I was a Buddhist. So I would go every Sunday to the temple, and I would do the meditation and the chanting and community. It was actually a community thing more than anything. I found my place with them. I was the only white boy in the temple. Everybody else, 90% of them didn't even speak English. So it was interesting. But I was a vegetarian, and I went to Europe as a vegetarian. When I got to the US, I watched a documentary, so I became a vegan. And I have to agree that changing your habits, just going from vegetarian to vegan, I lost a heap of weight, and I was the healthiest that I had ever been. So I've decided to do that again. My sort of addiction was Coca-Cola. So sodas, I was having, a lot of that, maybe 1 to 2 liters a day. And that caused probably a significant amount of weight gain. And so I've given that up. I've been 2 months without having any of that. And as soon as I got rid of all that sugar, I dropped a heap of weight. I dropped a lot of weight, 10 pounds straight away. It just dropped off me. And it's because of all that extra inflammation and the sugar and carbonation and stuff. But changing your habits definitely changes how you feel inside your body, like 100%.
Yeah, and it's very unconscious. People don't think about it because I don't know. When I was doing recovery at one stage, and the person who was leading the program would say that short-term gratification leads to long-term suffering, and that's the saying that is very true. Because when you take like a cigarette or you have a cigarette, you go for that instant relief. When you have sugar, you go for that instant relief. And we don't realize like how much damage we're doing to ourselves when we're doing that. We don't take that into conscious account. And it's not easy. It's not possible to be conscious, because not wanting to feel what you're feeling in the present moment, or get away from that suffering or get away from the pain, is way more important. And I love that you said that you're vegan, because I'm vegan as well. And I definitely feel strongly towards the cause, but I can't force my cat to be vegan. That's not hers. I can't force that lifestyle.
That's not
exactly.
That's not. I have 2 ferrets, and I have a cat and 2 dogs, and none of them are vegan. It's not why I'm a vegan anyway. It wasn't because, I mean, I don't like causing the suffering of animals, but that wasn't why I decided to do it. So I know that there are a lot of people out there who are vegan and they do it because they don't believe in killing animals for food and whatever. And to be honest, we don't have to, but that's not why I did it. It was all completely health choices. But can I just say that in Australia, it is disgusting that it is so expensive to be healthy. It is one of the most expensive lifestyle choices that you can make. Yeah. When I lived in the US, it was so cheap.
It is extremely difficult. Oh, it's way worse in Australia because I feel like it's expensive even here, and even I think it's getting better in Canada. Like there's a very big market for veganism, and they're really improving from that perspective. But I feel it is very expensive to be healthy, both in terms of cost and time. Because if you become completely conscious about what you're putting in your body, you have to start meal prepping, you have to start like exercising, and if you have like a full-fledged job and everything, I don't know how people do it. It's
hard
difficult.
work. I can't even manage to open a salad.
It is hard work.
I bought some pre-made salads a few weeks ago, and I forgot about them. I got onto other things. I bought myself an Instant Pot, which is a pressure cooker, which Americans listening would know exactly what that is.
Oh, I love Instant
popular things.
Instant Pots, man.
So good.
It's so amazing.
So good. Yeah. So I forgot about these salads that I bought, and then I was looking through the refrigerator, and I'm like, what the fuck is that in the back of the fridge? It was like a bowl of salad that had decided to go back to the earth. It's bad.
No, I absolutely love the Instant Pot. In fact, I used to joke when I had quit smoking pot, I would say that I went from Constant Pot to Instant Pot.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah,
it's good in winter. It's not so great in the summer.
Yeah, I am really an appliance nerd in terms of I need my kitchen appliances. I love cooking. So a Vitamix, Instant Pot, and all of that. I feel this is why I moved back to North America, because I just needed all my appliances to work.
The appliances. Someone's been trying to sell me a Thermomix. Have you heard of them?
No. What is this?
Oh, Jesus. This thing is amazing. I probably need it without knowing that I need it. But it's also, well, here in Australia, it's close to like $4,000 for this thing. But it does everything.
Holy shit.
Oh yeah, it's like it is the god of all kitchen appliances. It peels your potatoes for you. You don't have to do anything. It's great. So she's been trying to sell that to me, and she's been sending me videos of stuff that she's making in the Thermomix. And to be honest, it would be wonderful. It would change my life because I could just do everything. It all happens in this one pot, and she does everything. She even makes cakes and bread dough in this thing. But $4,000 is a lot of money to part with for a kitchen appliance, and I just paid $400 for the Instant Pot, so I'm sort of tossing up what.
Oh my goodness, $400 for an Instant Pot! It's so expensive there.
It is expensive here, and we are very similar to Canada. Our dollar is very similar to you guys. So the Canadian dollar and Australian dollar, they only sort of differ by about 20 cents.
That is crazy because wow,
I know.
I think you should buy the knockoff because it was a lot cheaper in the US.
Yeah, but that's it though. They don't have that crap here. You have to just get what you can. I had to order it online as it was.
Yeah, definitely. So, what was like your inspiration for like Unscripted? Where did this idea come up, and why is it unscripted?
Oh yeah. I also host a true crime podcast, which I'm not going to plug it right now because I'm having a few issues. Anyway, people who are following the true crime podcast know that I'm having issues. All of our episodes got deleted by the podcast host. All but 3.
I'm so sorry.
So I've been trying to recover them, and it's been if you looked in my email, there's about 400 emails now. I say that without exaggerating, between myself and the hosting platform who deleted the episodes without even saying anything. I didn't even know about it till someone emailed me and said, "Hey, what happened to all your episodes on the podcast?" So that was the first podcast I decided to host. I'm a second-year law student, and I had a real passion for crime, not committing crimes, but just, looking at crime and criminology and that type of thing. And I just got interested, and I thought I could do this. So those podcasts were all scripted. Everything about the True Crime podcast is set out in chronological order to make it make sense and make it sound good. And I love it, but I got sick of reading a script all the time. And I actually felt like there's a wealth of information out there. I know a lot of interesting people, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I still haven't heard the stuff that I've been talking about with people on this show. But I wanted it to be completely unscripted. I didn't want to have a set of questions that, you ask people. And I've actually, funny enough, I found it really difficult to get out of the scripted head. Like, to get out of that, I have to have everything written down and let the conversation flow. So I feel a little bit like a baby deer, like maybe with a truck oncoming sometimes.
No, this is great, because I feel like we didn't even know each other before this call, and it's been so smooth, and it's been such a fun conversation, and I like that. That's why my podcast is unscripted as well, because I feel when I'm looking at a script, or if I'm interviewing someone and looking at the second screen or like a different tab, I'm not in the moment with the person. I'm not listening. And I don't like doing that, because I feel I love connecting with people. I love talking with them, and the script takes away from that.
100%.
Speaking of lawyers, did you watch Better Call Saul?
Do you know what? I didn't watch it all. My partner watched it, and I was busy studying, and so it was always on in the background, and I heard quite a lot of the dialogue from that show, but that's not the kind of lawyer I want to be.
Maybe you should watch it so that you know what not to do.
I know what not to do.
It's one of my favorite shows. Oh my God. I just love Bob Odenkirk.
It's funny. I've heard a lot of the dialogue, and I found it quite funny. If you like funny shows, there's an Australian show. I don't know how you'll get it over there, but it's called Rake, Rake. And Rake. It is about an Australian lawyer. And everyone apparently who goes to law school in Australia goes to law school because they've watched this program.
It's interesting.
He's a really bad lawyer. Let's just put it that way. So my story is back when I was in school. So I was sort of in elementary, junior high, high school. I wanted to go and study law. I always wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer. I don't know why. It was just always my dream. I used to pretend, like back when I was a stupid kid, there were games that my sister and I used to play, and one of them was that I was the lawyer and she was the criminal, and she would always end up going to jail for like 300 years. So the writing was on the wall that I was not a criminal defense lawyer, but I always wanted to be. Unfortunately, when I left school and decided I needed to have a job and whatever, life took over, and I just didn't do it. So in the beginning of the pandemic, I decided I need to do something. I was sitting at home doing shit all, getting fat, watching TV, rotting my brain, just really looking bad. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to apply. I just decided to do the LSAT, and it was just a whim. I thought, yeah, I'll do this. So I did the LSAT, and I got accepted to my first choice for an undergraduate law degree. And I thought, this changes everything now. So I was in it, and I thought, I'm not going to let it go. I can't screw it up. So as for the type of law that I want to do, I started studying criminal law this last semester. We've just finished the semester now, and I hated it so much that I dropped out of the unit at before census, which is when you can get out of the unit without paying for it and failing. So I dropped criminal law. It's a core unit. You have to do it. It's a requirement of all lawyers for admission to do criminal law. But I thought I needed a little bit more basis, but I really hated it. I have enjoyed civil rights law, so civil procedure, constitutional law, stuff like that. And something I'm really, really interested in is succession law. So wills and estates and things like that, which I know Saul Goodman does wills and estates. Yeah, he does.
No, Jimmy McGill would do estates and wills, but then his alter ego. Saul
that's
Goodman
right. After he was disbarred, yeah. Yeah. He got in with the mob or something, didn't he? Yeah. So that was my thing. I just decided that's what I was going to do. But at the same time, you say you want to connect with people. I love doing the same thing. I'm the person who sends a text message to my friends every morning. Hey, how's it going? What's on the thing for today? And like I said, I love talking to people about different things. And I know that there's a wealth of information out there that isn't being talked about everywhere, which it should be. Things like addiction, things like autoimmune disease, or just shooting the shit with someone who has something interesting that they want to talk about. If you're funny and you want to talk about something, let's just have a chat. And I actually think that people engage really well, because even though this is a new podcast, it's already rating better than the True Crime podcast. So I was really happy. Oh, wow. With that. Yeah. So maybe I'll be in the new and noteworthy soon. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. You must be doing something right.
Well, if people are listening, all they have to do is click that little 5 stars. If they enjoy it, leave a review. That's the thing I think that gets you up in the ratings, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully, if you're listening, just click that little 5 stars. Also, what's your website? What's your podcast? Because we haven't talked about your art yet, and we've been jabbering on for like an hour, and I feel like I need to let you go.
No, it's all good. No. So the website is healwithsushil.com. My name, Sushil, is literally sushi with an L at the end.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put how funny, Sushil. Oh my God, you just said that. I looked at my notes and I've got podcast website healwithsushi.com. I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
It's all good.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've corrected that. I'm going to put that on the show notes. Not Heal with Sushi. Healwithsushil.com.
Navigate to a restaurant or something,
What you need to do is you need to go and register healwithsushi.com right now if it isn't already registered.
No, I should. Ironically, I've always been vegetarian, so I've never had sushi.
Yeah. Well, you can get vegetarian sushi.
Vegan sushi. Vegetarian sushi, vegan sushi. There's really good places in Toronto and Montreal. So I think vegan food and vegetarian food is really going really innovative and amazing. The stuff you don't have to actually depend on meat as much as you used to before. There are some really good options, but yeah. So Heal with
from
Sushil
a health
is
perspective too.
Podcast.
Like meat is full of crap. Like if you just think about the pollution and stuff that the meat, the animals are eating that stuff, and you're consuming that into your own body as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like antibiotic resistance and all of the factors which we don't take into. If it was just like hunting for survival, if you live in Yakuts and like places where you don't,
then they have no choice. I understand.
Then you have to eat. You don't have a choice. But the way it is manufactured now, right, is not very healthy. No. It's you don't know what's going to happen long term if you keep consuming the meats that is on offer in the supermarkets. Which brought me to a very funny point. Eating kangaroo is actually encouraged in Australia, right? Because the meat is
Well, do you know what?
it's sustainable, right?
It's sustainable. We have a lot of kangaroos here. We've got a housing development going on not far from here, and they are driving all the kangaroos out. So I've never seen so many kangaroos in all my life. In fact, before I moved out to the country, I'd never seen a kangaroo except in the zoo. They were not. I lived in the suburbs until I was about 12 years old. And then when just after my 12th birthday, we moved out onto a farm, and I still had never seen a kangaroo. There were no kangaroos here. The only animals I had seen were sheep and chickens and ducks and geese, and these were all animals that we introduced to the farm ourselves. We had a few goats and
no marsupials.
No, no, nothing. But now, lately, we're seeing a lot more kangaroos, and it's because of the housing. All of their natural habitat is being taken over by houses, and they're getting pushed further and further out away from where the construction is happening. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot more of them in our yard looking for water. So we actually have a trough set up for water for the kangaroos, but you have to be very careful because they're everywhere. So if you hit a kangaroo while you're driving, it's kind of like, for our American and Canadian friends, it's kind of like hitting a moose.
No, but moose is rare.
Are they?
You know, I mean, I've not seen a moose. I've seen deer. The regular deer are different, but moose is not as commonplace.
I guess you're in Toronto. Yeah. Maybe they don't have that. I have a friend from Newfoundland who said that they used to walk around in their front yard.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I mean, I would die if I lived there, to be honest, from the cold.
I probably would too, yeah. But then again, what is Toronto like in the winter? Does it get cold?
Oh goodness, it's like it's crazy cold, man. I just feel like from being from India, from a tropical place, it's very intense. And I don't know, I've been like these last 2 years of working on myself, right? I've been a nut job in terms of taking cold showers and stuff. Yeah. But in the winters, it gets really intense.
You know, for us, for you and I especially, because we're from a different part of the world, our blood is different. I learned this a long time ago, actually. It's to do with the gases in our blood and the thickness of our blood. People who are from the Northern Hemisphere, who come from typically colder climates, have a thicker type of blood. And it helps them to not die of cold, first of all. Not that I've died or anything, but, it helps them to not die from the cold. But we need time to acclimate, and it takes time for our blood to change so that we feel more comfortable in those environments. People coming from the Northern Hemisphere, like English people, it takes them on average 5 to 10 years to properly acclimate to the Australian climate, which is why I believe 7 out of 10, so 70% of people who decide they want to live here in Australia who come from England end up going home within the first 2 to 3 years because they can't handle the weather. And it's the same when we go from the south to the north, because it's such an extreme change. We suffer.
Very extreme.
Yeah.
To that point, when you asked me about like depression, and one of the factors was definitely the Seattle winters. And you don't see the sun. You don't see the sun for like months together, and it's always like overcast, and it's just like there's no end in sight. And especially with, I don't know if you have daylight savings in Australia, but with winter, daylight savings is like the worst time because everything starts getting dark really early. Your circadian rhythm is completely messed up. And that was definitely one of the contributing factors in the depression when I was going through it.
Have you heard of SADS?
I've heard of SAD. I had one. My SAD lamp.
Yeah, you did? Oh, so we don't have that issue.
Are you talking about
seasonal affective disorder?
Yeah. You mean like a lamp? seasonal affective disorder was a thing, and you also have like sad lamps where
Yeah, that
you
help you
have a
with the
lamp
UV
which
light or
gives you like,
something.
yeah, it's very sad, but
Yeah. It is a really common thing, especially for people, like I said, going from hot to cold climates, or who are generally, like even me, going to Europe. As much as I wanted to go to Europe, and I love the cold actually, I don't do well in summer. But I even had the seasonal affective disorder because I just couldn't see an end to the winter. Like 6 months of darkness type thing. And I wasn't that far north.
Mhm.
In winter, some of the people
No,
in
for
Sweden
sure.
don't see
And
sunlight for 6 months.
yeah, ideally, I would be somewhere in the tropical country, when
Yeah,
everything, um, like somewhere like Brazil or like Costa Rica,
yeah.
where a lot of vegetation, a lot of natural cover. That's where I would want
Aha.
to be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, it would probably remind you of home. Quickly before we go, because I will let you go, we didn't talk about your art, but you have another website, don't you? Which is
I do.
theartconduit.com.
It's not very active right now.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not very active right now. I post most of my art on my Instagram, which is also the art conduit.
okay.
And so, yeah, I enjoy making art because, again, it was really, really helpful processing shame, processing difficult emotions and stuff. And I didn't know I had an interest in art because when we're growing up, I think there's no room for failure if you're like an
Yeah.
Indian person, or because it's so competitive. So I gave like a standardized test for like drawing. There was one exam which we would give, and I flunked it. And after that, I didn't paint for like 17 years because I was like, okay, that's it.
Mm.
I suck at art. That was like the final statement. But I have been discovering that it's a lot of fun. I publish a weekly newsletter where I send out like what painting I'm working on, and each week I kind of give some. I actually do the newsletter such that it's a podcast, a
Okay,
post, and a painting. So
okay.
it's where I kind of give updates about the current episode, the current week's episode, and a post about like whatever comes up, like some useful tips, or like somewhere along the theme of Heal with Sushil,
Yeah.
and the painting that I'm working on. And that is on healwithsushil.substack.com. It's on Substack right now.
Okay. Do you want to send that link through to
Yeah,
me, and I'll put that on the episode page, so
for
that people
sure.
can link in? And is that how
And
people subscribe if they want to know
and
more?
that's right. And another thing is that I have also created a course for painting in terms of it's not exactly an art course. It's more like painting to let go of, reconnect with your inner creator.
Mm-hmm.
Painting to just like process emotions. That's the idea of the course. So that's how I
Okay.
started painting. I was painting complete garbage, like circles and squiggly lines, and just to get it out of my system 3 years ago. And that evolved into like a passion for painting.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I should share this process, this 3-step process that I go through when I create paintings. So there's a course on Skillshare for that as well, and I'll send this information across.
Okay. All right. We'll put the link
Yeah,
on. We'll put the link on the episode page. It has been an absolute pleasure
for sure.
speaking with you today. It's been a really
Oh, the pleasure
easy
is all
podcast
mine.
to make.
And
This episode has been far too easy.
thank you. I mean, I think we could have talked a lot more. I feel like
We probably could.
just felt like we already knew each other. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to have you back again another time, because that's something that I would also like to encourage with this episode, is that it's not just a one-time thing. I don't want to have people on who just come and, plug a book or plug a website or something like that and try to get some more followers. I don't want that. I feel like, well, for me, I'm like, I need to be everybody's friend. That might be my little shame guilt thing that I'm carrying around.
So good. And, I had an idea for you as well, like in terms of maybe you could do like a panel of past guests or something, and then make it interactive. Like you can use Riverside's features where you can have like an audience room, right? So
Yes,
maybe
yeah.
do like a live back and forth with former guests and people if they have like questions, like follow up
Yeah.
or something like that.
That would be absolutely
Yeah.
amazing to me. I would love to do that. I'm trying to do that. I've got a couple of guests lined up where we want to test out the audience feature because I've never used it before. So I want to test out the audience feature, and I guess in the meantime, it's just about growing the social media stuff and getting some more followers. But like I said, the social media has been good. It hasn't been live for more than maybe 2 weeks, I think. And within days there were like 30 to 50 followers, I think, so across the platforms. So I'm happy with how it's going, and that's my cue to encourage people to click on like and go to facebook.com utterly unscripted, I think it is. I don't even know my own social media.
Yeah, and yeah, when you put this out, right? I would love to share it, and I think I love what you're doing here, and I wish you the
Thank
very
you.
best in your podcasting journey. And I can't
Thank you.
wait to see how this episode turns out.
Thank you very much, Sushil. We would love to have you back. It would be great because I think we've got more to talk about, and I like talking, so we'll do it again for sure.
Yeah, this was an absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you.